Comfort is expensive. It will cost you. It will cost you your calling. Have you ever felt like you're just going through the motions of life? You're doing all the things that you feel you should do or need to do to provide for yourself, to provide for your household, to put food on the table. You have a job, you're doing the things, like I said, you feel that you need to do to survive. But yet you're not really living. That feeling like I'm doing all these things, but I don't feel alive. I know I need to do these things, but I know that there's more for me. I know that there's more in me. I know that there's more in this life that I'm not experiencing yet. And sometimes with that feeling, it can be draining. It can feel like you're stuck. It can feel like unfulfillment as you're going through the motions of life. And I just want to say to you in this moment that you're not alone. Many of us, probably more than would actually admit, have felt this way at some point during the course of their life, that they're just going through the motions. We get good at putting on a representative. We get good at masking really what's going on underneath the surface of things, so we can engage with others, so we can go out into the world, so we can, appear normal, so we can seem like we have it all together. But it's in those moments that we are alone by ourselves in a quiet place where no one else is around, that those feelings of unfulfillment and feeling stuck and feeling like we're not actually living begin to get loud or heighten, right? There's a shift that needs to happen, a shift. I want to tell you right now that how you see yourself matters. When I look over my experience, journeying through this human experience, from childhood to a teenager to a young adult to now being an adult, I realized that I picked up some things along the way. And what I mean by that are things that God never intended for me to make mine. So because of things that I've been through, a past hurt, disappointment, trauma, insecurity is something that I picked up. Anxiousness is something that I picked up. Low self-esteem is something that I picked up. Being doubtful, doubting myself is something that I picked up along the way. And what I realize is those things continue to frame how I would show up in the world. So I got comfortable with isolating myself. I got comfortable with muting myself or shrinking my voice or not being seen. I got comfortable with those things. But let me tell you something. That's not comfort. That's not peace. None of that is anything that God intended. Those are things that I picked up along the way through this journey of, like I said, my human experience, that not only did I make it mine, but it stuck with me. And I took that on as my identity. And the more I did that, the more the authentic person who I am, who God created me without those things, was covered and buried underneath all the things that I put in place over myself. Do you understand what I'm saying? During the course of life, there's circumstances that we go through that we were never intended to make ours. And I'm sorry that you've been through some hurts and some pains and some heartbreaks. It may not be what I've been through, but I know you've been through some things. We all have. Because like I keep saying, we are journeying in this human experience, so we have experienced some tough things. But what I want to say to you in this moment, that it was never intended for you to make yours. And so there's a shift that needs to happen, a shift that needs to go from how you see yourself from your fears, your insecurities, your doubts, your traumas, your pain. How you see yourself from that filter to how you actually are and who you actually are. And that's creating space enough to believe what God has said about you over the narrative that you tell yourself more often. Because believe it or not, we tell ourselves more often the narrative of self-doubt, the narrative that we are not enough. We tell ourselves more often the narrative that we don't have what it takes. But who told you that? Right? Who told you that? So I want to say to you in this moment that you have to fight for you. You have to fight for the version of yourself that you want to see in the earth, that you want to see live out the destiny that God has already set in motion. There is nothing ordinary about you. There is nothing mediocre. I'm saying that funny because it's a funny word. It doesn't even belong in our vocabulary. This is what I'm trying to say. There's nothing mediocre about you. Mediocre, what does that even mean? It means barely adequate, right? But yet we're settling for barely adequate when we are not ordinary. We're extraordinary, right? Jesus didn't lay down his life for us to manage an old, ordinary life. He did it that we may live and be led in new life, right? You are a child of God. In John 1:12, it says, as many as received him have taken on being his. You're a child of God. You're a child of his. He claims you as his. And that's not just words to say, and then when you walk away, it's something different. You have to know that in here. You got to own that for yourself, that you are his. John 10, verse 10 says, Jesus says, I have come to give you life, and that more abundantly. I have come to give you life, and that more abundantly. These are the things that we need to be taking on to ourselves. These are the narratives that we need to be telling ourselves, not what the enemy is telling us, not what somebody said somewhere down your life path, that you're not good enough, that you're never going to make it, that why would they ask you to do this? Why would you be doing this? It doesn't matter what they say, it matters what God says. And I want you to get this. I really need you to get this, right? Because like I said before, we continue to practice the narrative that we tell ourselves, the narrative and the seeds that the enemy has planted in our thoughts. And we tell ourselves the narrative that maybe even culture says should be. But I want to encourage you today to believe God's narrative, because in his word there is life, and he's speaking life. Jesus said, I came to give you life. And you got to believe that. If you believe who he says he is, and you've taken him onto yourself as your Lord and Savior, not just your Savior, but your Lord, meaning he's going to lead you, meaning you're going to trust him to lead you in this life. Believe him when he says, I've come to give you life, and that more abundantly. You know, the enemy, if you look at the verse, it's still verse 10, but right above it, it says, he's a thief, only comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And that means your perspective. That means to destroy your self-esteem. That means to destroy how you see yourself and how God actually sees you. The enemy doesn't want you to believe that or to know that. But I'm here to tell you and redirect you in that direction, that you are who God says that you are. Oh, you got to get that. You got to get that. You got to get that, because how you see yourself changes everything. If you are sick and tired of living a cycle and a pattern of feeling not enough, feeling shameful, feeling guilty, feeling, like you're sabotaging yourself all the time, or getting down on yourself for not doing, or whatever the case may be, you got to get deep in your spirit, in your soul, that what you say to you matters. And I want to encourage you to start changing your language. Start changing your thought patterns. Start changing the habits of when things happen, what you tell yourself, the way that you speak to yourself. You will start believing those things one word at a time. So in the same sense that I'm saying this to you, I need you to start believing God about what he says about you one word at a time. I need you to believe it over what you've been told all your life. I need you to, and that's why you got to practice it. You have to fight for you. You got to tell yourself these things. You got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. If no one else will, you have to do it. If you want to see the better version of you emerge. Because again, God already paid the price. He already laid down his life for you to have life and for you to have it more abundantly. Now, what are you going to do? What are you going to do in these moments? What are you going to do? Are you going to settle? Are you going to settle for comfort? Are you going to settle for being isolated and shrinking yourself and feeling unrest and feeling unfulfilled? Are you going to settle for that? I don't think that's what you want to do. I know that's not what you want to do. So it's time. It's time to rise up and stand up for you. Stop settling for comfort. Stop settling for what's mediocre, what's barely adequate, because that has nothing to do with who you are. So if you are tired of just surviving and you want to thrive in this life, you know that it's there for you. Just drop in the comments one thing you're going to give to God today, or one thing you're going to do to shift in this moment. All right. And then if any of this has helped you in any way, if there's more conversations that you want to hear in this manner, faith-filled conversation, then subscribe. Until next time.